Let's bring in Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Herr, along with New York Post columnist, host of the Karol Markowicz podcast, Karol Markowicz, and Fox News contributor Sara Carter. Charlie, to you first. To go to Rehoboth Beach when this clown, excuse me, that's an insult to clowns, go to Rehoboth Beach and then do a stroll on the beach having breakfast on a Sunday morning. Given what has gone on with the atrocities, this is really Joe Biden's brand, is it not?
It really is. And, you know, you make a great point, because I was getting ready to say that the guy is so out of touch. He's so clueless about what's going on in the wake of his catastrophic decisions. But you make a very good point. This is probably intentional. He's probably rubbing it in people's faces. But it is truly astonishing the direct line you can draw from every single one of his policies that lead to all of these catastrophes around the world, whether it's his decision to abandon the border and then what happens after that at our southern border, or his decision to stagger American energy independence and jack up the price of oil so that suddenly Russia and Iran have so much money they can go shopping, and shopping they went. All of this is a direct result of this president's policies. And you have to ask yourself, is it intentional?
Well, Karol, I would say that it's important that the president of the United States projects strength. And strength comes from being in the White House, maybe in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office, not walking along the beach. Many conservatives have pondered, who's running the show? It's not Joe Biden. Someone else has to be calling the shots. And this just gives that theory more credibility. If Joe can go to the beach as we're dealing with Ukraine and Israel, someone else must be in the Situation Room, you know, being the commander in chief, but it's not Joe.
That's exactly the problem here. Who is the commander in chief? And yeah, I would love to see some strength projected from this administration. I'd love to see some competence. I'd love to see some normalcy. I'd love to see any number of things from this administration that we're just not seeing. I didn't get to go to the beach, and I live in South Florida because I've been so wrapped up in the news. Yet our president is strolling along in his jacket, for some reason going to a cold beach in Delaware. I just don't get it. What are you trying to show the world? Are you trying to show that you don't care? Because that is what you're showing. And you're definitely showing it to the American people, too. A lot of us are hurting. A lot of us are scared. And I think for the president to just be on, you know, yet another mini vacation when the world is blowing up is so unacceptable.
Sara, again, if you just focus here on the United States, it's just catastrophic what this administration has done, inflicting suffering and hardship on the American people, whether it's the open border or sky-high inflation.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Dagan. I mean, let's just take a look at what's happening. We have catastrophe in Ukraine with Russia. We're watching right now in the Middle East. The world is basically on fire. China is getting involved. We have our naval fleets out there. We see our adversaries circling around the United States like sharks in infested waters ready to attack us. And we have a president that is basically sitting on the sidelines and really doesn't know what is actually going on. I was stunned when he came and spoke before the American people on Thursday and then made a statement to Israel, asking Israel to show restraint. I was stunned because Israel was the one that was attacked with such a brutality, such a barbaric nature, that even describing what happened to the people on October 7th is beyond words. That one of the youngest hostages being held right now is a 9-month-old baby boy, a 9-month-old child, and they're asking Israel to show restraint. Now, Israel is a sliver surrounded by enemy states in the Middle East. And I spoke to people today that are in Israel that were explaining to me what was going on in Gaza. And I said, when will we see Israel enter Gaza? It could be any time now. So we have a world that is literally on fire, and we have a president that is checked out, and we have the American people that are now wondering what is going to happen next, because it's not going to end with Israel. Right now, it's going to end with something happening here. We have adversaries like Iran as positioning themselves strategically, and I think that is what most people in the intelligence community and the military are most concerned with. What is the next step?
Well,
No, it's a good question. And I want to move to this because despite the sheer terror felt by the Jewish people around the world, given the massive resurgence of anti-Semitism in the wake of Hamas's terror attack on Israel, the White House is focused on keeping Islamophobia in check. President Biden posting on X earlier today, quote, "As Americans, we must come together and reject Islamophobia and all forms of bigotry and hatred. I have said repeatedly that I will not be silent in the face of hate. We must be unequivocal. There is no place in America for hate against anyone," I guess unless you're Jewish, Joe.
Here's what White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, again, downplaying recent displays of anti-Semitism and immediately shifted when asked about anti-Semitism to talk about Islamophobia. Watch this.
What is his level of concern right now about the potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel?
So a couple of things. We have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that that's out there. But look, Muslim and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. And certainly President Biden understands that many of our Muslim, Arab Americans and Palestinian American loved ones and neighbors are worried about the hate being directed at their communities.
Karol Markowicz, your family fled. I'm just going to say.
Sorry.
Wait, I just want to say one thing. Joe Biden mentioned the word Islamophobia more on Thursday night than anti-Semitism. What kind of piece of human excrement is such a political animal? That's what he's worried about, all of those young voters on college campuses, right? Who are Jewish, who are going from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's what they're up to.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. He is not concerned about the right thing here. I am disgusted by his comments, by Karine's comments today. It is a scary time to be Jewish in America. I was never a gun person. I've been shooting several times in the last week. I'm taking my family's security very seriously. To say there are no credible threats is a joke. A rabbi was killed 2 days ago. We don't know the cause yet, but obviously if it was a different story, everybody would be jumping to the same conclusion. I think that what we have right now is a lie being spread. You don't see Jewish groups marching around calling for deaths of Palestinians. You don't see anything like that. You don't see Jewish groups celebrating any Palestinian deaths. What you do see is large groups of Palestinian waving flags saying that that Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, which specifically means removal of Israel. And I think anybody giving credence to that chant, anybody marching with those people, anybody tearing down posters of the hostages that are being held in Gaza are all Jew haters. And I think the White House needs to grow a pair and talk to those people, criticize those people, and say, no, we're not going to stand for it.
You know, Charlie, we're a year away from an election, and no doubt all these decisions have a political tinge to it. And we shouldn't talk about politics in this time, but I'm going to, because I think what Joe Biden is doing is he's looking at votes. And I think he probably feels comfortable that the Jewish voter is going to stick with him, even though you have a portion of his party, the squad, that is absolutely anti-Israel and anti-Jewish, and he's making a play for those who love Hamas. Unpack that for us. Explain what the heck is going on here, because to me it makes no sense at all.
So it's amazing, Sean, because it's like there's no room for decency when you're dealing with politics with people like Joe Biden. The reason he talked about Islamophobia during that speech and harangued America as being some racist Islamophobic place is because it's a very effective tool for ginning up the haters in your party, and that's all that's all these people have left. And I often sort of, in my more hopeful moments, I think that we're sort of in the death throes of the Democrat Party because we are seeing what we have seen from them, the entire Biden administration, but also even before that, all they have left anymore is this racial hatred that they try to gin up. And we saw it with all the BLM stuff. That's their only, they have no ideas. They have no suggestions. They don't like America. They don't like Americans. But what they are good at is deploying these tactics to pit people against each other based on race. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in politics. We stamped this out 50 years ago, but these people are bringing it back, and they're bringing it back because it's effective, and they can actually win elections by doing it, and we must reject it. We must stand and be decent and overcome their disgusting tactics with our decency.
Sara, real quick, final word.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Charlie wholeheartedly on this. I think it's a divide and conquer approach. But I think the one thing that we have to remember, there are a lot of anti-Semites in this administration, a lot of people who have backed Iran, supported Iran, want Iran, still want the JCPOA, and is placing the United States in a very dangerous predicament. Our border's wide open. Iran has its eyes set on the United States as well. And if it happened in Israel, believe me, it can happen here tenfold. We've got to keep our eyes and ears peeled, and we've got to speak out against this hatred, and Hamas is nothing but monstrous. That's all I have to say.
We have to speak out against this hatred, no doubt. Charlie Hurt, Karol, Sara, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.